Welcome back to The Line. Early voting began this week for the Albuquerque municipal election. Burqueños can vote for their choice of city councilors, bonds, and other issues, as well as their pick for the next mayor of Albuquerque. The mayor's race is heating up, certainly, with the presence of more television ads and the ramping up of accusations against candidates. A KOB-TV investigation into candidate Tim Keller's campaign reports found almost $30,000 in cash donations listed as, quote, in-kind contributions. And Laura, Mr. Keller's campaign manager said that the money was given to public affairs firm Rio Strategies for in-kind purposes. And a lot of folks have some trouble with this. They don't see cash as in-kind as we traditionally know it, meaning pens, pencils, bottled water, volunteer work, that kind of thing. Where do you think they stand on this one? Are they on, they're saying they're sort of in the clear as far as the legalities of it goes. But for a lot of people in our town right now, it doesn't smell too great. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, it doesn't smell that great to me either.
Yeah.
I support Keller. I mean, I think he's the best person for the job. But I think that in this case, his campaign manager, his campaign consultant, the entire company, did not do him any favors. Right. I think that I would be really surprised if they got legal advice on this. I think they're, the statements that they made and the questions that they answered were really not clear.
Right.
And I think that they're really not doing a good job in terms of dealing with this issue. To see a campaign report where you have Diane Dennis having given $1,000 cash to a campaign consultant on somebody's behalf, I mean, that's a contribution. There's no other way you can, and to actually have been soliciting those. And I don't know, to me it's not clear yet if Keller knew about that. But clearly somebody in that campaign office, and at least at Rio Strategies, was soliciting. And I think there's evidence of that. So I think that what they really should have done from the beginning is just run like everybody else did. And part of the problem is that he was trying to occupy a
Meaning
space.
Don't take public money.
Right, not do the public finance.
Right, exactly.
And I think that I think admirably, Keller's trying to take a different route, saying he's not going to pander to who's ever contributing to his campaign. That may still be the case if he wasn't involved in any of the questions or any of the solicitation of these donations. But ultimately, the way to get around this is just run like everybody else is running, because it's unrealistic.
That might be
with
the upshot
amount
at the end of the
that's
day.
getting, given in public finance to be able to run a campaign effectively with what little amount there is.
That's right. Pick up on another situation we've had, Senator, come up to the surface this week. Another ethics complaint lodged against County Commissioner Wayne Johnson, saying he has taken contributions that violated the county's code of conduct to the tune of $40,000 from people who are restricted donors, quote unquote, meaning they have done business with the county, they have been before the county, they have received something for the county, but now this county commissioner is getting money from those folks who have received these kinds of things. Do you have a problem with this? Is this something that from your gut as a candidate and as an office holder, does that hit you right, hit you wrong? How does that smack you?
Well, I mean, honestly, it hits me differently than the whole situation with Keller. Okay. So I agree with Laura. The in-kind goods and services, we're talking about cash. There's a bright line there, crystal clear, and the campaign's not handling it well. I think Keller. I think the public's going to view Keller being held to a higher standard because of his background and so forth, and this is really a black eye. With regards to Johnson, I mean, here's the deal. About 17% of all businesses in Bernalillo County are tied into real estate and development. And so if you say, I'm going to close the door on contributions from that segment of society, you're closing the door to a lot of campaign contributions. He's running for mayor. He's not a county commissioner. Question is, as a sitting commissioner, is he subject to commission guidelines, which are different than mayoral guidelines? His wife, Kirsten, is former president of the Board of Realtors, all this. So anyway, I think there's a gray area there. Classic Albuquerque. On Keller's campaign, maybe a gray area there too.
Let me wind these other cats in. We just got a couple of minutes here. I'll come back to you, Laura. It's my fault. Another issue we've got coming up, Tom, is the idea we've got some polling out. That shows Mr. Keller, the aforementioned Mr. Keller, doing okay by some standards, Mr. Colon coming on, certainly, but we've got a lot of undecideds out there.
Yeah.
Where do you see it as it
30 to 30% of the voting base have identified themselves as undecided. I mean, that's enough to give Gus Pedrati a shot at the finals, right? And he's there polling at 1%.
That's right.
So it's really still anybody's race. It really appears that Tim Keller right now with 22% in both of the different polls appears to be that front runner. But to call anybody a front runner right now, there's just momentum.
Right.
And, you know, based on some of the issues raised here at the table, I think momentum might be a bit of a challenge right
And
now.
it's also going to be a sprint to the finish, isn't it? And I mean this financially.
Oh,
If you got the wherewithal to really pound it these last couple of weeks, you can be in good shape. But if you don't, you're sort of out of the box.
Yeah, you know, it really goes back to, I think, just getting your base, knowing
Right.
what your base is and making sure
That's
your
right.
base gets out there. I think the aforementioned result is still up in the air based on whether it's Keller or Cologne,
Right.
or Keller
Lewis.
Lewis, that's
yeah.
right. That's right. Or pick any Republican. as they
Cologne,
say.
yeah,
That's right.
Johnson,
exactly
yeah,
right.
who knows?
I want to swing to Santa Fe real quick. We'll take advantage of having you here, Inez. In that, the announcement that your mayor is not running for re-election has really popped a lot of things open in Santa Fe, hasn't it? It's very interesting.
It is. It's wide open. And Rancho Hill has declared he's working hard, and we don't have any official declarations yet. Ray Sandoval, who puts on Zozobra, who is known to be politically minded, he did Obama for America as an activist, great background. He's decided not to run because he thinks there's a conflict with his production of Zozobra, and he had committed to staying until 2024. So now, who knows? Joe Maestas might run. Alan Weber, who ran for governor, is a possibility. Valerie Espinoza has said she might run.
Right.
And there's probably people that we have not heard of that are
Is the
considering
idea
it.
that the position's now moving to a full-time, fairly well-paid position, is that making a difference in who's going to be running in your view?
Yes, I think so, but we haven't seen people come out of the woodworks. I think even though Gonzalez lost the soda tax vote, there was a perception that he would be hard to beat, so no one was running.
Right.
And now with him out, it's open.
That's right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Good stuff this week. A busy week, that's for sure. We'll see you next time.